Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome in to Tider Insider TV, presented by Buffalo Rock, alongside Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com. I'm Gary Harris. Tonight, we're enjoying ice-cold Diet Pepsi.
It's cold tonight.
Good. Got to make sure you got it ice-cold. Well, Rodney, we're going to get to National Signing Day in just a moment. We'll talk about Alabama's needs. That's on the way. But first, the Alabama men's basketball team finally snapped out of their slump. Saturday's win over Arkansas ended a 4-game losing streak for the Crimson Tide. Anthony Grant made an interesting move in his lineup on Saturday. He went back to the 3 freshman starting lineup. He went with Nick Jacobs, Levi Randolph, and Trevor Lacey. Sitting out, at least at the start of the game, was leading scorer Michael Green. Green did come in pretty early in the game, though, and played pretty well. Alabama gets a win, Rodney, but still right now the Tide facing an uphill battle as far as making it into the NCAA tournament. I've said for the record this should be an NCAA tournament team. Anything short of that, in my estimation, would be a disappointment. The good news is there's still plenty of time for Alabama to make its tournament case, but they got to keep on winning.
Am I wrong? I thought I saw some of the prognosticators, though, predicting Alabama in. They were already setting some brackets.
Well, yeah, maybe if they were to go to the tournament today, they might be in, but if long term, there's still some work to be done. I can assure you of that, starting with Saturday at home against Ole Miss, then a trip to Auburn next Wednesday night to play the in-state rival Tigers. But the good news on Saturday was they played with some passion. They played hard. Defensively, they played pretty well all season long. Offensively, still only 2 of 15 from three-point range, but they made some shots inside. And this is a team that's talented. You know, they've worked in Andrew Steele. He's come back from injury. Musa Gay, the junior college center, didn't play against Arkansas, but they're trying to integrate him into the lineup and still kind of trying to find their way. But I do think this is one of the more talented teams in the SEC. Of course, Kentucky's at a different level, but I think Alabama's in that next tier of talent and should make it to the tournament.
Yeah, very young, Gary. As you mentioned, they started those 3 freshmen, and you know, certainly when you're looking at a team that's young, we've talked about this over and over, you're going to have some ups and downs, and you know, maybe this lineup change certainly might spark them some.
Okay, from basketball, we move on to the subject that I know most of you are focused on right now as Alabama fans. National Signing Day, or at least we call it National Signing Day, but it's actually a signing period. Players don't have to sign tomorrow, but most of them will. Obviously, it's less than 24 hours away. The Tide looking to have another great class, and we'll recap it all tomorrow afternoon with our Tider Insider TV Signing Day special brought to you by Your Way Furniture. Now, it'll be coming up at 3:30 from Bryant-Denny Stadium. Rodney and I will be there. We'll have a list of signees, profiles, analysis, and we'll join, we'll join Nick Saban's press conference live. He's expected to talk to the media right around 4 o'clock. When he takes to the stage, we will join him. So we'll have a great Signing Day recap for you tomorrow. Also tomorrow at 11 a.m., we'll have the Tide TV All Access special as well. So, and our newscast will have recruiting covered too. So stay tuned to WVUA TV tomorrow for all your recruiting updates. Well, let's talk recruiting now. And Rodney, our station is owned by the University of Alabama. So we've been told that we can't talk specifically about recruits until they sign, but we can talk about signing day needs, position analysis, and let's do that. Let's talk about 2012 and what Alabama's really looking to get done in this class.
Well, first of all, Gary, you know, they needed, when you look at what they're losing, you look at the secondary. That's one thing that really jumps out at you. Obviously, safety Mark Barron is gone. Drake Patrick declared early. DeQuan Menzie, an outstanding corner, also gone. So you needed to fill those needs, and they have. I know we're going to talk about some of the guys. Travell Dixon already in school. Deion Blue, corner, already in school. They're going to bring in some safeties that they have commitments from that we will talk about tomorrow when they sign. So I think clearly they're going to fill that need. Obviously, they needed some wide receiver help, Gary. You know, they do have some young receivers who are talented and good, but they needed to upgrade at that position. I think, you know, they've got some in school now, Chris Black and Amari Cooper, and they're going to bring in some more tomorrow. So they're going to upgrade those positions. You always need linemen, and I think they're going to fill those needs. Maybe not so much they're going to bring in a couple of tackles, but they may have needed more, to be honest with you, Gary, on the offensive line. But there's, you know, you only have so many slots that you can fill. So defensively, I think that they've got a chance to really do well at the linebacker spot. They have several committed. And when you look on the defensive line, we'll see. They've still got a shot at a couple of more tomorrow. So we'll be able to wrap all that up tomorrow.
And you mentioned some of the early enrollees. Since they are enrolled, we can talk about them in depth. We will do so later on in the program, and going to be a big day tomorrow for Alabama. Well, some other news is happening. The university has announced that the A-Day game is scheduled for Saturday, April 14th at Bryant-Denny Stadium. Admission will be free to the public, but a kickoff time has not been set as of yet. Further details on television coverage and events surrounding A-Day will be released at a later date. And homecoming has been set for Saturday, October 27th. And this is what's unusual. Usually the homecoming opponent is somebody from out of the conference. The Tide will face SEC West Division foe Mississippi State. Rod, what about that?
Wow.
This will be one of the more difficult homecoming games you would think.
2 years ago it was Ole Miss,
Yeah,
you remember?
that's true. But for the usually it's not in
Right.
conference. And this is a Mississippi State team that figures to be pretty strong. So fans will get their money's worth on homecoming this year.
Oh, absolutely. Not only will it be attractive from the standpoint of it being homecoming, but it should be a pretty big game if you look at it in that regard.
Yeah, a rivalry game. So a lot to look forward to in that announcement coming today. Homecoming October 27th versus the Bulldogs. Well, still to come on TITV, we'll talk about those football prospects who've already signed on the dotted line. But up next, to say the Alabama gymnastics team has dominated Auburn is putting it lightly. Last Friday, the Tide won its 104th consecutive meet against the Tigers. We'll have that story. And we'll take your phone calls and answer your emails as always as well. 205-348-WVUA is the number, 348-9882, or you can email us at TITV@WVUATV.com. Stay tuned. You're watching the show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide. The one, the only, Tider Insider TV, presented by Buffalo Rock. Well, this past Thursday marked the 29th anniversary of the passing of Paul William Bear Bryant. At the time of his death, Coach Bryant was the winningest coach in Division I college football history. Of course, he made his name at Alabama, but also was a head coach at Maryland and Kentucky and Texas A&M. He was 69 years old when he died, and less than a month removed from coaching his final game for Alabama against Illinois in the Liberty Bowl in Memphis. The Tide won that game 21-15. Well, the Alabama gymnastics team captured their 104th consecutive victory over the rival Auburn Tigers this past Friday night. And Rodney, I guess that begs the question, is a rivalry still a rivalry when you've beaten a team 104 consecutive times?
No. I mean, it's like Barry Switzer said, you know, when they asked him about the Bedlam series in Oklahoma, between Oklahoma and Oklahoma State, when they had won so many times in a row, and he asked him, what do you think about this rivalry? Well, it's not a rivalry when the other team can't win. So, I mean, it's kind of, I think you could say the same thing for this.
You know, Auburn had their chances. It went right down to the final event for Alabama, and Ashley Priest, the senior, came through with a big-time score on the balance beam, and that really was the difference in the meet. So Auburn has improved their program. You know, you do wonder if one of these days they're gonna come up with a victory. But right now, Alabama's still enjoying dominance over their in-state rival. Well, when Tider Insider TV continues tonight, we'll talk about some of those football players that have already enrolled at Alabama. And we'll go through spring and hope to make an impact in 2012. Also, we'll take your phone calls and get to your emails. The phone number 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. Or you can email us, TITV@WVUATV.com. Tomorrow is a highly anticipated day for high school football players lucky enough to be offered scholarships from around the country. But for 8 Alabama football players, and I say Alabama football players because they're already enrolled, the college experience has already begun. 6 high school players and 2 junior college players, Rodney, were able to enroll this semester at the University of Alabama, which means they'll go through all-season conditioning, spring practice. Of course, they're taking classes, and we want to highlight a few of these players. You saw them there on your screen, but let's talk about a guy that generated substantial buzz, not just because of what he accomplished on the field at Daphne High School, which was large, great numbers, over 2,000 yards, over 30 touchdowns, but he originally committed to Auburn and flipped to Alabama shortly before enrolling at the Capstone. So this was a guy that was coveted by a lot of schools. It looked like he was going to be an Auburn Tiger, but instead he's a member of the Alabama Crimson Tide. And Alabama fans hope to see a lot of that.
Yeah, you know who he just jumped?
He jumped over a future Alabama Crimson
that's
Tide
right there.
cornerback.
Yeah, that's right. And T.J. Yeldon, again from Daphne, obviously a very talented kid. You mentioned he had originally committed to Auburn. They offered him earlier, Gary. They got in on him a little bit earlier. Alabama wasn't ready to offer him at that point. Fell behind. But, you know, in the end, you know, he found an opportunity at Alabama to follow in that kind of that running back tradition. He's a great player, can catch the ball. Reminds me a little bit of Bobby Humphrey. Watch this run right here, kind of upright. You know, he's 215 pounds and looks like he can carry another 10 or 15 pounds.
Yeah, so he's got speed, too.
It's going to be a big, strong back. Yeah, watch him here. Watch his ability to, the vision there to see the opening out in space and make things happen. This is a great cut, I think, coming up here on the next run, Gary, where this is the Alabama-Mississippi High School All-Star Game. There's 2 or 3 great cuts right here. You don't really get a good shot of it there, but from behind you do. And just got all kinds of ability.
Well, another guy, and let's be honest, running back is a position that gets a lot of noteworthiness at the University of Alabama. It's a running offense first, but the Tide is looking for big play receivers. Had a good group of receivers this past year, but maybe lacked that down the field threat. But Amari Cooper here, and we'll watch him in the Under Armour All-American game. Man alive, this kid out of Miami can get down the field, catch a football, and then turn on the jets after he gets it in his hands.
I've said it before, you talk to a lot of people, Gary, that saw him considerably, and they thought that he reminded them a lot of Snoop Brazel over at Ole Miss, the freshman there that was such a sensation this year. And here he is on a kickoff return. I think it was a 93-yard kickoff return, or was it a punt return? I can't remember. I didn't see the video there. But I know that, he's got all kinds of skills catching the ball, Gary. He's got a knack for the game. By the end of the year, he was a guy that was one of the top wide receivers in the country.
Okay, that's a look at some guys that are already in school and could be big additions in 2012. Once again, tomorrow, the rest of the class will be filled up, and we'll turn our attention to 2013. Alabama's already doing that, already recruiting well for 2013 as well. Well, time to take some phone calls. 205-348-WVUA is the number. Let's go over to Bessemer and talk with our buddy John, who's first up. Hey, man, what's going on?
Gary, what's going on, man?
Hey, bud.
Hey, man, what's going on with Alabama basketball, man? They already lost. They already lost Kentucky. I think Alabama needs a new coach.
Well, John, that's not going to happen. Coach Grant's only in his 3rd year. He's already won 56 games in 3 years, and they went to the final game of the NIT last year. They're very much in the running for an NCAA tournament berth this year. And, in basketball, you play 25, 26 games. There are times when you go on a little bit of a losing streak. Nobody likes it. Nobody wants to. But the important thing is that at some point you break that streak and you turn it around and you start winning some games. And I think Alabama's got an opportunity to do that, John. They lost 4 in a row, but they beat Arkansas. They got Ole Miss at home. They got a couple of winnable road games against Auburn and LSU. So I think they can get this thing turned around and still have a heck of a year. All right, let's start with Rick, who is joining us from Brent. Rick, what's going on?
How are y'all gentlemen doing?
Hey, done well.
Fine. My question is, do you recall ever if after a big win in the 70s or 80s, did Alabama ever tear down a goalpost?
I can never recall it, and I've never seen it with my own eyes. I will say this, and I wasn't there, I didn't see it. There is a picture, and maybe it was doctored, there's a picture on the internet following one of the Sugar Bowl games. I think it was the victory either over Penn State or Ohio State, and it shows Alabama fans on the field around the goalpost. I don't know.
Well, I remember the 1990 Auburn game. If you remember, Auburn had a 4-year streak. Gene Stallings' first year, and Alabama beat them, was it 16-7 in Legion Field? And, they protected that goalpost really well that day, too.
But we've never seen it.
No. I've never heard of Alabama tearing down a goalpost.
It's never happened. Now, it's happened a lot to Alabama when they've lost games to other teams. We've seen them come down. But as far as Alabama doing, it's really not a tradition. They've won so much at UA through the years that there's no need to tear down goalposts when they get a victory. All right, let's start with Joseph, who is with us from Tuscaloosa. Joseph, what's going on?
Yeah, Rodney, what's happening? Hey, I know like tomorrow we got the National Signing around about somewhere 3:30 or 4:30 around that time. But let me ask y'all this little sample. Is there any chance that is they ever let fans come by and watch at the Bryant-Denny Stadium?
Joseph, we're not, because we're going to be in the press box, and the stadium will be closed off to the general public. So you're gonna have to watch us on TV tomorrow, bud. But there is a recruiting function for members of the Red Elephant Club in the zone. But again, you have to have a membership into that club. As far as our show, we'll have it on TV, but we won't be letting fans come up and watch us. Okay, let's take an email question. Who will start on the offensive line next year? From Billy in Tuscaloosa. And Rodney, we know 4 of the guys pretty much, we think, cut in stone.
Yeah, I mean, you probably think that Cyrus Quandro, if he can recover, Good chance he could start at left tackle if indeed Barrett Jones, as speculation has it, does move inside to center. You've got Chance Warmack coming back at the left guard spot. At the right guard, you probably have Anthony Steen. And then at right tackle, DJ Fluker. You know, again, there's possibilities that this spring we could see something else develop. But as of right now, if you want to make a guess, that's
yeah. I think that's the five. That's the five it's going to be, or some, you know, certainly Barrett Jones is going to start somewhere. Now there is a possibility if he doesn't play center, he could stay at left tackle, or he could even move back to his old position of right guard.
Yeah, could be.
Know, so but Jones, Warmack, and Fluker we're positive of. Pretty sure about Quanzo and pretty sure about Anthony Steen. But that's why they'll practice. And they'll make those decisions later. All right, let's take an email. This is from Bradley in Tuscaloosa. Did any Alabama players raise or lower their stock at the Senior Bowl?
Oh, that's a good question.
Well, I'll tell you this. We had, Courtney Upshaw, I think, just did what everybody expected him to do. He rushed the passer. He did a good job. I don't know that he raised or lowered it. He's going to be a first-round pick. Marquise Mays was dinged up a little bit. He was limited there. I'm trying to think off the top of my head who else was there.
Smelly.
From Alabama. Brad Smelly worked some at tight end and some in space, and I think all the Alabama guys did pretty well. So, all right, let's go to Anniston and talk with Harold. Harold, welcome into the program.
Hey, like to say roll, tide, roll.
All right, Harold.
Hey, my question is, right now, is Alabama surpassed Notre Dame in national championships in college football?
Officially, yes. And, Alabama has 14 national championships, but most of the media outlets count it from the wire service polls in 1936 onward. Alabama has 9 of those. Notre Dame has 8. So from 1936 on, which is what most people officially identify national championships from that point going forward, Alabama has more than Notre Dame. So 9-8. Yeah.
Well, Alabama, of course, claims 14 overall.
Right.
And Notre Dame, some of the Notre Dame people claim 17.
That's what I was going to say. If you go back pre-1936, again, you're getting into a situation where Notre Dame may have more. But from 1936 on, Alabama has 9, and Notre Dame has 8. If you're going to talk all time, you got to go back to some of those Ivy League schools that played football in the 1800s, and I think maybe Harvard or Yale, somebody like that, has 20. All right, we're going to take a timeout. We'll be back with more right after this. Back to the phones in just a moment, but Rodney, we've talked about all the great television coverage we'll have in terms of recruiting tomorrow. Also, our radio show tomorrow night, Tighter Insider Radio, from 6 to 8 on different radio stations all over the state, and we'll again discuss recruiting even more and take more phone calls tomorrow night on our radio show beginning from 6 to 8 tomorrow night in various stations around the state of Alabama. Let's go back to the phones, go over to Center, Alabama, and talk with our buddy LD. LD, what's going on?
Not much. I was wondering how realistically how many wins Alabama would have to get into the NCAA tournaments.
LD, it's a good question. I'm not sure anymore there is a certain number of wins. At one time, back in the 80s, 20 was a magic number, and it just seemed to work out that way. If you played in a major conference and you got to 20 wins, you usually got in, sometimes 18 or 19. Now it's different with scheduling. RPI is a factor, strength of schedule. So I don't know that there's a magic number. You see, something like Alabama had a large number of wins last year, over 20, and they didn't get in. And you saw some teams get in with 17 wins. I've seen teams get in with 16 wins. So there's a lot of varying factors. So I don't know that you can say, well, if they get to this amount, this number of wins, that they're in. They look at who you beat, who you played. Sometimes even there are good losses, so to speak. So I can't really tell you a number. All right, let's take a look at an email, and this one comes from Ronald in Tuscaloosa. A lot was made about Mike Anderson being introduced as Mike Davis at last week's basketball game. Do you think it was overblown? Yeah, I think it probably was overblown. It was a mistake. The name was said wrong. I didn't know that much was made out of it. I know Coach Anderson was asked about it. He didn't seem to take any offense to it. It was simply a mistake. Either the public address announcer was given the wrong name or he accidentally said the wrong name. There was nothing intentional of that, I am confident. All right, phone lines are open at 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. We've got another email to take right now. What time can recruits officially fax in their letters of intent? From Randy Birmingham. That's a good question, Ronnie. What time can they start?
Well, it starts at 7 Eastern time, and which is 8, of course, Central time. So we'll start hearing something, and there's one right off the top, Gary, that you want to keep your ears out for, coming out of Virginia.
Okay, so 7 Eastern, 6 Central?
No, it's 8 Central.
Okay.
They're an hour behind.
So 9 Eastern.
It's 7.
The Eastern time zone's an hour ahead.
Okay, they start at starts at 8. I'm sorry, starts at 8 Eastern.
Okay.
7 Central. I'm sorry, I had that backwards.
Just want to make sure we get that clear. 7 Central. All right, we'll be back after this. All right, we got time for one more phone call. Let's go to Coker and talk to Rusty. Rusty, what's going on, buddy?
Boy, pretty day today, huh, guys?
Absolutely.
Like sunny and almost 70 on the last day of January.
It was beautiful.
Last day of January.
Yeah. What you got for us, Rusty?
It's beautiful weather. I was just wondering if when you guys, do your shows and all of the greats that has.
All right, Rusty, we got to move on. We got some time restraints there, and your question that you told him you were going to ask about was Chris Black, who's a running wide receiver that's already enrolled and a good-looking football player.
Yes, he is, Gary. There's no question about that. Out of Jacksonville First Coast, some thought he was the best wide receiver in the state of Florida last year. Amari Cooper as well, by the way. And, when you look at running backs, of course, you have Eddie Lacy coming back. You have Justin Fowler, D. Hart, Brent Callaway still at the running back spot. It'd be interesting to see, where he eventually ends up if he stays at running back. T.J. Yeldon, the freshman who we talked about. So all those guys will compete. Of course, you look at Eddie Lacy, you see what he's done in the past, and he has big-time potential.
All right, thanks for the phone call. Again, a reminder, we've got recruiting coverage for you galore tomorrow. There you see everything on your screen. Our Tider Insider Signing Day special is brought to you by Your Way Furniture. Tonight, we're headed over to the Pottery Grill for dinner in North Point. Come out and join us. And, of course, you can find this show tonight on the website, WVUATV.com. Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.